The PlayStation 4 has been a return to form for Sony after the bumpy road that was the PS3. It has also been home to a huge library of unique, interesting and different titles. However, not all of these awesome video games have actually made it through development. Kick off your shoes and relax your socks while we go over the best unreleased PlayStation 4 games. The full list of unreleased PlayStation 4 games is a long and interesting one. However, not all of those games actually sound any good, and some of them are actually available to play on other platforms. I personally find it way more interesting looking at the games that nobody has ever got to play, in a kind of almost alternate reality kind of way. Therefore, this list will focus purely on the games we never got to see on the PlayStation 4 or any other platform, and more specifically the unreleased PS4 games that actually sound like they would have been brilliant. First off is Human Element. Announced in 2012, Human Element was an ambitious online multiplayer survival game based in a post-apocalyptic zombie wasteland. Human Element was being developed by the indie developer Robotoki. Robotoki was founded by previous Infinity Ward developer Robert Bowling. Robert Bowling focused Human Element on the question, what is the biggest threat in a zombie apocalypse? Believing it to be the fear amongst the survivors and the actions that that fear leads to. Developed around the time of the Walking Dead hype, Human Element sounds like it would have been a virtual recreation of some of the ideas and concepts that Walking Dead has attempted to tackle, with players being able to even play across multiple devices, with players on consoles on the PlayStation 4 being able to focus on more of the action aspects of the game, and if a player was playing on the tablet, they could focus on more the resource hunting and scavenging, with both those players being able to form an alliance if they so chose to. Although Human Element seemed to be ticking a lot of the boxes of the niche at the time, the niche that was the zombie apocalypse that was getting really popular with the series Walking Dead, and with other popular gaming titles as well like Left 4 Dead. In 2015, unfortunately, the doors of Robotoki closed due to lack of a publishing deal and funding issues. KillingBytes was planned to be a PlayStation 4 and a PS Vita game based on the KillingBytes manga series. The manga series is based on brutes, which are an animal-human hybrid which have been created to maximize the potential of the human brain and the lethality of beasts. These brutes take part in KillingBytes battles, which have been used to decide Japanese economic differences since ancient times. A suitably unique story as we'd come to expect from a manga, the virtual adaptation of it was to be a multiplayer fighting game. As with a lot of Japanese manga series, KillingBytes has a very strong fan base who are really excited to see their favourite manga virtualised in video game form. And rightly so. Japanese fighting games are one of the most exciting and fun genres around, and the KillingBytes IP looked like it would perfectly fit this genre. Interesting battles, a solid story foundation, and special moves that would make the most of the human-animal hybrids that are the brutes are just some of the highlights that we never got to see. KillingBytes was unfortunately officially cancelled in 2017. However, since then, fans have tried their hardest to revive the idea of a KillingBytes video game. Unfortunately, to date, nothing has surfaced. Legacy of Kain Dead Son was to be the 6th game in the Legacy of Kain series. The Legacy of Kain series concluded with the events of Legacy of Kain Defiance. However, Dead Son was to kick off a brand new story arc many years in the future based off new protagonists Gain and Asher. Development of Dead Son started in 2009 after Square Enix purchased Eidos. Development of Dead Son was in complete secrecy with no information or details of the game surfacing at all. It wasn't until 2013 that it became clear that Square Enix were working with the Legacy of Kain IP when the strange discovery of a storyboard surfaced. According to follow-on leaks, it appears that the player would control both Gain, a vampire, and Asher, a human, whose souls became intertwined as they travelled the land of Nosgoth, in what would have been a very similar style of gameplay to Defiance. The story arc would revolve around a quest for revenge and escalate into a story of a vampiric child that would decide the fate of the universe, and would also include the character of the Elder God. Unfortunately, Square Enix decided that this was not the right game at the right time and instead turned their attention towards the game Nosgoth, a free-to-play multiplayer game on PC based in the world of The Legacy of Kain. Much to the criticism of video game press and fans alike, ultimately, Nosgoth itself also wouldn't see the light of day. I myself am very disappointed that we never got to see a new entry in the fantastic Legacy of Kain series, so much so that it is actually part of my top PS5 wishlist games in the episode from last week. Project Ragtag, despite the name, was a Star Wars game set in the Star Wars universe after the events of Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, and would be a linear game about a large heist. The most promising part of Project Ragtag is that it was led by the creator of the Uncharted series, Amy Hennig. EA planned to make an open-world Star Wars universe adventure, where the player would take the role of a space scoundrel. After Amy Hennig joined the team, who was the writer for the first 3 Uncharted games, the direction of Project Ragtag changed to be a more linear story-driven action-adventure, where Amy likened the Uncharted series to the likes of the Indiana Jones franchise. She saw a Star Wars game working quite well with the ideas behind heist films. Project Ragtag was to completely fit in with the canon of the Star Wars universe in the same way that Star Wars Rogue One does. Gameplay would have the player switching between multiple different characters in the group with viewpoints similar to the movies as the heist came together. Many of the employees, however, behind Project Ragtag saw the goals of the game as quite lofty, especially considering at the time it would be going up against the new Uncharted 4, but also because it wouldn't involve some of the mainstay Star Wars themes like the Force. After the financial success that was Star Wars Battlefront, EA decided to pull the plug on Project Ragtag and instead focus all their efforts on the sequel Battlefront 2. Now, we all know the dark place that EA ended up in as they started to focus less on single player story driven games and try and focus more on multiplayer games. However, it seems like more recently EA have started to see the error of the ways with the microtransaction free Need for Speed Heat and the fantastic single player story adventure that is Star Wars Fallen Order. As much of a shame as it is that we didn't get to see these interesting heist ideas play out in Project Ragtag, I can't help but think that we kind of dodged a bullet and that EA probably would have messed it up back in those days. I'm sure that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has a lot of the spirit that Project Ragtag had, and to be honest, it's probably better the way things turned out. Now, Whore of the Orient is a game that stands out because of its odd and somewhat offensive name. However, behind the odd name was a game that sounded very, very promising and very interesting. Set in the year of 1936, the game was to focus around the corrupt city of Shanghai in the hands of Western powers filled with mob crime and political problems. The political party Kuomintang ruthlessly put down labor movement in an attempt to suppress communism, whilst at the same time the international police force are attempting to maintain peace. In 2011, developers behind LA Noire started development on this new game. In a similar style to LA Noire, it was to be a narrative action adventure using the fantastic motion scan technology. In 2013, unfinished gameplay leaked showing the combat style. However, in 2016, during an interview, it was revealed that despite the developers fighting to the bitter end, the project had been cancelled. Before Hideo Kojima's rough divorce from Konami, he had spent some time working on the 9th installment of the Silent Hill series. The game was to be called Silent Hills, and it would be directed by Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro, but it would also feature Norman Reedus as the protagonist. Sounds familiar, right? Prior to being chosen for the project, Hideo Kojima had stated in previous interviews his respect for the Silent Hill series. Therefore, when it came time to select the director for the new game, Kojima was an obvious choice. Hideo Kojima had openly stated that he was a scaredy cat when it came to horror movies and games, and he wasn't really sure he could pull it off. But he also stated that there's also a kind of horror that only those people who are truly scared of it can create. And from the output of his work, I'd say the latter is correct. We never got to see Silent Hills, with the project being cancelled in 2015 amidst differences between Kojima and Konami, which ultimately resulted in Konami restructuring its video game business and essentially cutting all ties with Kojima. However, just before everything did kick off, we did get to see PT, playable teaser. PT was essentially an interactive demo for Silent Hills that was marked as a generic horror game, developed by the non-existent 707080s studio. If we know anything about Hideo Kojima, I'm pretty certain that the marketing of this demo would have played quite heavily into the story of Silent Hills. PT uses a first-person perspective, which is new for the Silent Hill series, and focuses on an unknown protagonist that awakens in a supposedly haunted house and starts to experience supernatural occurrences. The player is only able to walk around and zoom in while they explore a forever looping corridor. However, upon completing the final puzzle, the playable teaser reveals itself to be the demo for Silent Hills. PT was extremely well received and went on to create a following of its own. However, with the announcement of the cancellation of Silent Hills, the demo of PT was immediately taken off the PlayStation Store. To date, it has not resurfaced. However, there has been a couple of fantastic attempts to recreate it on PC, with one of the developers behind these recreations actually going on to earn himself an internship at Konami. We might never get to see the potentially fantastic Silent Hills game that Hideo Kojima had planned. However, there's a strong chance that Hideo Kojima will actually be creating a very similar horror experience under the new independent Kojima Productions. Project Rap Rabbit was a PlayStation 4 rhythm game that was set to mark the return of the story-based rhythm game. Project Rap Rabbit was meant to be the spiritual successor to Parappa the Rapper, featuring rap battle gameplay and blending it with Japanese culture. Nana Osha and INIS, or Innis, who were behind Parappa the Rapper and Gitaroo Man, aimed to build upon their rhythm game prestige with Project Rap Rabbit. Players would take the role of a rabbit named Toto Maru, who must use the power of rap music to defeat the powerful overlords that have taken over the land. The gameplay would have had 3 phases: listen, respond, rap. During the listen phase, the opponent would rap and the player would be able to pick up on words in their rap that they could then later use in their own. During the respond phase, the player would use a spin wheel to decide the kind of response they would have to the opponent. And during the rap phase, players would press buttons according to the rhythm defined by the rap. The rap which would have lyrics that were based on the emotions dictated by the respond phase, with swag being essentially the same thing as the health bar, so whichever player lost all their swag would lose the battle. Unfortunately though, the Kickstarter failed to reach its goal of $855,000, and work on Project Rap Rabbit subsequently discontinued, which is an absolute shame because Parappa the Rapper is a fantastic game that stands the test of time, and Project Rap Rabbit is just the kind of easygoing fun games we need to see more of these days. However, $855,000 is a huge target to try and achieve, and to be honest, I'm not surprised they fell short of it. It's an absolute shame none of these games got to see the day of light. Some clearly went on to inspire other games. Some of them we've probably seen but disguised with different IP, and some of them we might eventually see should fund in return. Either way, I find it really interesting to dig deep into this world of unreleased games and imagine an alternate reality where we might have actually played these titles. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to find out about more unreleased games on different platforms, then hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out when those episodes get uploaded. In the meantime, you can check out some of these videos.